and William moving house, going to Forest Lodge, which will apparently be their permanent home. And that's something very interesting as well. So that's going to be a new change. It's still in Windsor Great Park, but it's further away from sort of Windsor Castle. They're actually fairly close now. They will be fairly close to Prince Andrew. Actually, it's fairly close to Royal Lodge. And so it's just like, very, very interesting things afoot. I was unfamiliar with this, but they are moving to an 8-bedroom forever home in Windsor as they plan a fresh start after princess's cancer treatment. Unlike Harry and Meghan, Wills and Kate are funding all renovations themselves and will have no live-in staff. This continues from Adelaide Cottage. And so this is going to be their new place. And it's an 8-bedroom home called Forest Lodge, nestled in Great Windsor Park. And they will remain there even when William becomes king. So this is the home right here. In some ways, it doesn't look like super duper impressive, to be quite honest. And I mean, it does and it doesn't. It's like so hard without like actually being there and like seeing what the size of everything is, like where the rooms are and everything. But obviously, it's a nice little place. You got some green lawns. It looks like we'll do like a look at it from overview and a map, but you can see this had been previously rented before. So it says insiders are saying they're hoping for a fresh start after a difficult time at Adelaide Cottage, during which Queen Elizabeth died and Kate and Charles were diagnosed with cancer. It is the ideal pad for their young family and far removed from Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle. They are paying for the move and rent at no extra cost to the taxpayer, it is understood. And unlike Harry and Meghan, when they splash 2.4 million pounds of taxpayers' money on Frogmore Cottage, Wills and Kate are funding all renovations themselves and will have no live-in staff. So I think this is very, very good, very, very exciting to see. And of course, it says the Sussexes later paid back the money before being evicted by King Charles. So I do want to point out here, because this has always been my opinion, is that Charles is the one who repaid the taxpayer money, the 2.4 million pounds, because I don't think Harry and Meghan had it at the time, which is why he could evict them. I think he covered the costs. And so when he evicted them, Harry and Meghan really had no choice but to leave. And that is just, again, my personal thought. That's the only money I think he's ever given them post-Mexit, was to just get that done and get everything to move on. Because I don't think they had that level of cash to just like give out at the time. So just something interesting there to consider. And it says planning applications seen by the Sun show that work has already started on minor internal and external renovations at the 328-year-old grade 2 listed lodge. And the Waleses aim to be in by Christmas. The home offers spectacular views, and football mad William will be able to see Wembley Arch from his bedroom window. And Kate has already been spotted picking new furniture to kit out the new abode, including a 24-seater table. And I always thought like Adelaide Cottage is very, very small. So I always thought Adelaide Cottage was always like a short little stint, that they were not going to stay there forever, that it was only going to be a short amount of time they were there. It was just it seemed too small. 4 bedrooms, like, and I know 4 bedrooms for some people that's like a lot in a home. But when you're talking about, they had 3 kids, so every bedroom was basically taken, so they couldn't host anybody. And not that they would host, like, her family has plenty of money and stuff like that, but honestly, guys, her family, like, she would go and stay at her family's house. She would go they would stay at her house. So I think there was a lot of like, they invite people into their home and they weren't able to do that. Like, even just think, for example, I'm sure Carol Middleton spent a lot of time at their home, and she may have had to sleep weirdly. Like, they might have had 2 of the kids share a room for a period of time, but Carol might have had to sleep on the couch so she could just be there for her daughter. I mean, I'm sure there's a small house somewhere that she could stay in. So I'm sure she wasn't too far, but after a surgery like that and stuff like that, you need somebody to help you a lot. And I'm sure there's some bad memories in that house. I don't blame them for wanting to move and go somewhere else in some ways. And obviously not everybody has that option. I understand that, but the reality of life always is, guys, is that there will be people who are rich and people who are poor and people in the middle. That's just life. I feel like I hate it when people criticize people for having money. Sometimes it's like, yeah, And I'm sorry you don't, but, like, there's nothing sometimes we can do to fix that. Like, there's just kind of the the world has always been there's been people with money and people without, like, that's just life. And I just hate that kind of annoying thing people go down sometimes. And so they are able to move and they're not it's not costing the taxpayers anything extra, and they have a place where maybe they're going to be staying there full time. Now, I feel like it's still a little modest for a king and queen. I kind of hope they do eventually move into Windsor Castle. I think that would be nice, but I understand as well. So Diz fan asks here, seems like Catherine and William are looking to make Buckingham Palace, Kensington, and Windsor Castle for work use only. Yes. And obviously King Charles lives in Clarence House, which I'm sure is quite nice and quite large. I don't know the exact dimensions, but from the outside and from what I can see from the, even though there's big walls separating me, it looks fairly large. But I mean, Charles has always been in the in the vein of that he wants to stay at Clarence House. And so he's going to stay there. Buckingham Palace is going to become just a working location. So is Windsor Castle. And I just find that to be a bit of a letdown in Kensington Palace too. Like they still will have their home base at Kensington Palace for when they're in London. I mean, it could change if Charles passes away. And I don't know if William liked Clarence House or not. He may decide to, for convenience sake, to move to Clarence House. But I don't know if that's feasible or not. I don't know if there's like outdoor space. And there's a little bit in goodness, in Kensington Palace for sure. Like there's where the helipad lands and those sorts of things. So there is a little bit of space for outdoor, but I'm sure they have more space there. But yeah, it's a little bit kind of disappointing that everything is just going to be working palaces only. I do have to say I'm a little sad by that because I do like the idea. We do have a lot of royals who do live in palaces still. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that because that is just part of the part of the deal, really. I understand if, let's say, when it comes to Kensington Palace, obviously there's tourists there all the time and people tour the palace all the time. So I understand maybe living somewhere else. I understand Buckingham Palace would be obnoxious because obviously everybody's looking at it all the time and it's a working palace. So lots going on. But I would love to see them actually live in Windsor Castle when he becomes king. I feel like it's sort of kind of important for you to somewhat live in an actual palace. Just my thought. Because I feel like sometimes what I worry about William is that he's almost overcorrecting. So he so wants to have the monarchy be approachable that in the process it might lose some of its luster because part of the deal with being royalty is that you are separate. That's the whole reason you're royalty is that you're different. And if you minimize those differences to such an extreme that you just look like the average guy just with a title, then you actually undermine the foundation of what you're trying to save. By like saving it by trying to pull back so much, you might lose it in the process because you overcorrected. So I feel like Charles is mostly keeping to sort of Queen Elizabeth standards in many ways. And so he's almost, still, I would argue, kind of leaning towards the past a little bit too much. I mean, the blunders this week with Buckingham Palace, which we should get into too, with the PR are just inexcusable in this day and age. Like, seriously, how did you let like an intern use AI to come up with 75 facts about Princess Anne and have nobody look it over, especially when it gives her husband two children that he did not have, gives them names. I think their names were Tom and Amy. Tom and Amy Lawrence. Step on up. You notice that it's a lot like Tim and Anne. And those type of things happen and they shouldn't be happening. I feel like the website for Buckingham Palace is slow and clunky. I think it's of a bygone era. I feel like the Brits should take a note from particularly the Danes. I think the Danes have an excellent website. I think the Swedes have a very good website. So the Norwegians. I think of the three, though, I'm like Danes, Swedes, Norwegians. And they have pictures, editorial pictures you can take from them. They have updates and those sorts of things. And the Brits are just super weird. And I understand some of it comes from security and everything, but they are slow and clunky on the website. I think they should do more there rather than William sort of overcorrecting. Because I think somebody said here too, Clifford, he's going to get rid of the mystique of the BRF. Yes, and that's the thing that keeps the BRF there is the mystique of it. If you lose a mystique, you lose the whole thing. You have to keep it. And so I think it's lovely that they have a place that's kind of theirs and more like homey and stuff. I'm fully in support of that. But even if it's more for appearance's sake rather than in reality, I think his home when he's king should be Windsor Castle because like you have to be able to keep things together. Otherwise, I think William's going to overcorrect. I think William's going to overcorrect to the detriment of it. Well, let's keep going down this. If you said a source close to the Wales has told The Sun last night Windsor has become their home. However, over the last few years, while they lived in Adelaide Cottage, there have been some really difficult times. Moving gives them an opportunity for a fresh start and a new chapter, an opportunity to leave some of the more unhappy memories behind. This is a move for the long term. They see it as their forever home. The Sun understands the move from Kensington Palace in London to Adelaide Cottage 3 years ago was partly designed to test life in Windsor and see if it worked for them as a family. So that's kind of smart. So they tested it in a place that didn't really need a lot of upkeep. Would have been funny if they stayed at Frogmore Cottage. That would have been really funny. But anyways, and see if everything worked and if they liked it, they would move to a more permanent situation. And that's what people do sometimes is, they rent for like a year and see where they want to live within a city or something or see if it works. Like people do that. That is a relatively normal thing. So yeah, they have settled in the Berkshire town with their children. They're happy at Lambert Brook School, a few miles away. Insiders say Windsor location allows Wills and Kate to be as hands-on as possible as parents while balancing royal family commitments. They have been very keen to join their children on school runs, despite retaining happy memories at Adelaide Cottage, which is 4 miles from their new home. The past 3 years have been incredibly difficult. Obviously, the death of the Queen and Charles's cancer and Catherine's cancer as well. So we can reveal, the Sun says, that planning permission for modest internal and external renovations for Forest Lodge were lodged with the council in June. Documents show it requires new doors and windows, stripping out of internal walls, renovating ceilings and new floors, but there are no plans for any demolition or new outbuildings. The freehold is owned by the king in care of the Crown Estate. The most recent tenants have bought a new property and moved out. Forest Lodge was last renovated in 2001 at the cost of £1.5 million. At the time, it was valued at £5.5 million, but according to a house price indication, entices it would be worth around £16 million if put on the open market. Media were allowed inside Forest Lodge to capture images of the renovations and restoration 24 years ago. It revealed the original stonework, elaborate plaster, cornices, ceiling decorations, marble fireplaces, Venetian windows, and half-barrel vaulted ceilings. So it went on the rental market in 2001 for £15,000 a month. Planning applications from the time showed 3 stables were built on the site and existing garages were changed into 2 semi-detached houses. 2 replacement garages were also constructed. The land comes with several cottages, a large pond, and a tennis court. Perfect for Catherine. She loves her tennis. It was listed as grade 2 status in 1972, and the official record shows it boasts a cellar built in Flemish bond red brick, original slate roof, 6 chimneys, 9 bay windows, and an entrance hall leading to a central drawing room. The home is an upgrade from the Adelaide Cottage, but still half the size of Andrew's 31-room Royal Lodge. Both are nestled in the heart of the 4,800-acre Great Park, so they will have lived in 3 properties in 3 years. Forest Lodge is 10 minutes closer to the kids' school. The family still have Abner Hall in Norfolk. And then the Kensington Palace did basically confirm, although they didn't confirm they were moving to this home. It's very careful in its wording here. The Wales's family will move house later this year. So highly likely it is Forest Lodge, but they're also careful to say they're just moving house. So if you want a little bit of the inside look here, you can check out, this is from Getty Images. So there's a little bit of the land here. And so we can see a little bit of the inside. Obviously, really high ceilings here. This might be, let's say, the entrance to the home, maybe. So they had pulled all the floors out, were redoing everything. It says I'm curious if it says what's actually in this room. It doesn't. So, but this gives you an idea of what's inside the home a little bit. and the size of the home from out here. And when it comes to the maps, because I always wonder, okay, what does it look like on the map? Because that's kind of important here. So, guys, this is from Google Maps. So, this is the home right here, Forest Lodge. These are some of the outbuildings. So, yeah, no staff will live with them, but I imagine we'll have some staff living out here in addition to security. There's the tennis court, there's the pond. I'm sure if they wanted to put in a pool, that would be an option. We have some outbuildings out here. It looks like these were pads for like agriculture. So they might be able to have obviously quite a bit of a garden. We got more of this out here. So lovely little area for sure. And obviously, given that, although I guess it'll be interesting to see if they cut off this Lime Avenue or if there's just like just a massive gate down here. I'm sure there'll be massive fencing put up and those sorts of things to keep it secure. But if you're wondering where Royal Lodge is, it's right over here. So Royal Lodge, and then Catherine Williams' new place is over here. So they're fairly close. You just want to get an idea of the size of Andrew's home. There you go. So at All Saints Chapel, this is where Princess Beatrice got married. So that's fun. So we'll pull it back. And if you're wondering where Windsor is and compared to here, Windsor Castle is right up here. So quite a bit of ways. So it's the Catherine Williams' new home. At least it looks quite a bit of ways on the map. It's probably not that long. And when it comes to Frogmore Cottage, that was right here. So there is Frogmore Cottage, which honestly looks bigger than Catherine Williams' new place, to be honest. And then we also had Adelaide Cottage, which was right here. See, definitely a small little place. It didn't look like it had much in terms of like 2 stories or something. And then the Frogmore house is here. So this is where Meghan thought her and Harry can move to, allegedly. And then you have the Royal Mausoleum, you have some Gothic ruins, those sorts of things. So, and then of course, Windsor Castle itself. I understand them not wanting to live there, but at the same time, I really do hope William at least somewhat lives there when he becomes king, because I think it'll just be a little bit of a bummer if they don't live there. So, guys, I hope that kind of helps you maybe orient a smidge. But yeah, definitely a big change for sure. Oh, there's a Magna Carta memorial. That's cool. Cool. Royal site of the signing of the Magna Carta. Awesome. Okay, sorry. We're getting distracted by the map. And then Heathrow Airport is right over there. So it'll be interesting to know if they get less, obviously, of flyovers. So that'll be entertaining. Because yeah, the planes do fly right over. They do. So lots of opportunities for them. And I think it's great. So Princess Goose asks, is it further or closer to Clarence House? It is way far away from Clarence House. So if you're curious where Clarence House is, so it is right. Clarence House is right next to Buckingham Palace. So you're actually in sort of the heart of London. So there's Buckingham Palace right here, and Clarence House is right here. So it's this one. This is Lancaster House. So I can definitely see where, and you walk right here. So I walk, when I'm in London, guys, I walk down the street like the mall, all the time. And there's not much, let's say, green space for children to have fun in, maybe somewhat here, but Lancaster House is like an event space. They hold a lot of events there. They actually let people film there. And so I feel like, this is St. James's Palace right here. So this is St. James's Palace. So Clarence House. So this is all kind of, I would argue, most of this is Palace Complex, basically, an extended part of the Palace Conquest. And then obviously Buckingham Palace is here. I understand. I mean, obviously you have the gardens, but you have people touring. There's always I can even push it. You can see people, not many, it doesn't seem like, but it might be just hard to tell. But, there's people hanging out around there. And so I can understand not wanting to live there, especially because it's a working place. But just as an FYI, if you are in London ever, especially around kind of the close of the day, if you actually hang out around here, you might see Charles because he actually drives. He has this car drive him from Buckingham Palace to Clarence House over here. So I've seen that drive a couple of times. So just as an awareness, and if you're curious too, Big Ben and Westminster Abbey are right over here. Just orient yourself. And then the Tower of London, let's see. How far away is it? It's not too far. Is it down here? We have Embankment. No, no. And then there's the Tower of London down here. Tower of London's pretty far away from where most of the so you have Tower Bridge down here. So it's pretty far. St. Paul's is over here. So if your British Museum's up here, highly recommend. And then like Harrods and stuff, and Kensington Palace is over here. So Kensington Palace is a big complex. Harrods is down here. Um, Paddington's up here, Paddington Station, if you're curious. So, anyways, I hope that orients you just a little bit. Just a little bit. So it's just kind of sad, I think, that we won't have a royal in a castle. Just need that a little bit. In my very, very humble opinion.